What's going on? Rank is coming out in a few hours and we're gonna go over the best decks you should be running if you want to be successful this season. Now that being said, what I have pulled up here is what the Limitless meta, the tournament scene, has been seeing the most success with right now. We do have Hydreigon, Psychic Toolbox, Mega Altaria second. Third is Greninja. Then we have, Greninja, Oricorio with Kangaskhan. And then we have Giratina in fifth. The reason I bring up this page is a lot of players are going to be using this as a template. But rank is kind of different from tournament play. So that being said, we're going to go over the decks I think that are going to be successful. And before that, we are giving away a card, and all you have to do to enter is like, comment, subscribe, and on Friday I will be picking one comment randomly and announcing it in the video. Now back to the video. Alright, so let's start off with Meowth and Chandelure. So this deck right here is amazing. It's very creative. I like the deck. It's super strong, hits like a truck, it's consistent. That's what makes it the best one prize deck, and it could deal up to 200 damage. Now that is insane. So while Meowth is in the front, protecting and getting you consistency draws and everything, you have Chandelure being set up in the back, being protected with the poncho. You have Giant Cape to extend his HP. You have Lele to get back your HP, because 140 HP is kind of respectable. And cards with red push for game. You have Cyrus, Sabrina, because you could put your opponent in a position where you take out an EX Pokemon or force them to bring out a Mega Pokemon. Like, this thing one-shots a Mega Altaria or Mega Absol, so it's kind of insane, this deck. That being said, this deck overall hits like a truck. It's pretty consistent. It's made a boom in the meta and has been performing well in the meta game. So I'd give this deck, my stamp of approval, because I will be using this on the climb to the ladder. But that being said, the next deck I want to bring up is Charizard, Mega Charizard Y. So this deck right here, you do play the 1-1 line. The reason being is because you don't want to see too many Charizard Y and make the deck inconsistent by having 3 base 2 Pokemon, like the stage 2 Pokemon. But the problem here is obviously you want to see the other Charizard consistently with May when Oricorio is out too, because that's going to be your answer. Charmeleon could be your answer as well, but you do play Sabrina and Repel. It's one of those things where Charizard becomes your second attacker for 150, and a Mega Charizard Y is just there to end games. Now, why is this deck going to be really good? Because right now, in the last couple of days, Snorlax and Steelix have been very, very common in tournament seed, and since they both won tournaments back-to-back days, it's just gonna see play on the ladder, and 250 damage, they cannot withstand that, and they cannot build back once it's over. Steelix, they lose the game. They lose the Snorlax, they're gonna have to wait another 4 turns in order to build back. So that being said, Mega Charizard Y, even before that, has been dominating the meta, because you just kind of destroy any Mega Pokemon with one hit. Even though you could just send out Mega Charizard Y, it tanks hits, and it's a glass cannon, but 250 damage is it's really respectable. And not only that, you could pivot to Entei EX to be an attacker, and just finish the game off with one shot with Mega Charizard in the back. Entei, the fact that you could build up Entei to 4 energy as fast as possible is kind of insane in this deck, and it's a draw engine for you too. So this deck is very strong and respectable to play on the ladder. The next deck I want to talk about is the Kangaskhan decks. Now, this is the variant that's going to be Daycare orientated, right? So a couple seasons ago, Daycare was super successful, because I also played that deck when it was super successful. A lot of us did, and it just was the most it had high win rates. It got you into games, in and out consistently. It has that big boom, potential where, you set up that Kangaskhan, you kind of just win the game from here, right? Now in this variant, right, we're not playing any Pokeballs because you play a good ratio of babies. You're playing 6 babies, and that's crazy because, like, the odds of you starting with your babies is going to be super high versus your EX Pokemon, and you could just shift around whatever you need, right? The ratios are alright, and you got Tyrogue here to deal with Oricorio, and Darkrai with Darkrai pings, and Rocky Helmet, so the bird is not really going to survive too much. And not to mention it's weak to fighting, and Geo could definitely take advantage of that. So Mega Kangaskhan is going to be the all-star for this deck. Just overall, any version of Kangaskhan I feel like it's going to be like high tier when it comes to playing on the ladder. Now that being said, this variant is using only one, and you are playing the 2 Serena, so you can search out the Mega Kangaskhan as fast as possible. Sure, one might be dead, but at the end of the day, you really want to see that Kangaskhan because that's going to be your win condition, and odds are you are going to be starting a baby like Mantike, Pichu, or Tyrogue, so you can get the energy ramping or swap into the Pokemon that you really need without any hesitation here. And you're only using dark energy, of course, for Darkrai. And then I feel like Guzma is going to be one of those cards that people are not going to be seeing like in the metagame or see it coming, so it's going to be very important to be running Guzma, something like that. Copycat for the consistency. Ilima is so good to reset your Kangaskhan whenever it takes damage. Cyrus to finish games. Geo to just destroy anything in the back row. Well, in the front row and in the back row in Kangaskhan's case, right? You could push that to 90, potentially get the knockout in the front, and then deal 50 in the back, or just end the game, plain and simple. And then you're playing double red instead of double Geo. It's just like, this became like a super defensive format too, where there's a lot of Snorlax is running around, Steelix, and it's gonna be super common. And to take care of Altaria too with red is just so much better. And you have the Darkrai pings, you could start hitting for like anywhere from 160 to 180. It's kind of crazy. With the Rocky Helmet, it adds more damage. So overall, I feel like this is going to be my go-to, these variants of Kangaskhan. The next Kangaskhan I want to talk about is the water variant, which is Greninja and Mega Kangaskhan. So in this variant, all you do is literally build up your Kangaskhan, have the Greninja for pings, and then it's kind of like the Darkrai, but like you're using Greninja to hit anywhere on the field. Now what I like about this deck, you could definitely get any of your Pokemon opponents Mega Pokemon on the bench, and then you could just Cyrus them in, and then from there you could start applying pressure, win the game as fast as possible. And just overall, like, Mantike is there to speed up the game. Of course, for Kangaskhan you do need a baby to get that started. You're playing water energy, so Greninja's not going to be useless. It could definitely take out Oricorios, so you're not going to be in a tough situation if you're fighting against any Oricorio builds. The next one I want to talk about is going to be a more control variant, which is the electric version Oricorio Mega Kangaskhan. So this version right here, I feel is going to be one of the strong ones, because like this lets you control the game at your pace, and just you're going to be in and out of games quickly too with this, and it allows you to buy time to set up the Kangaskhan. And because your opponent has to find an answer to Oricorio if they're not already playing one. So, and if they don't, you could just set up that Kangaskhan and then just win the game whenever you decide to swap it out. That being said, you are playing the double Geo, the red, Sabrina, the Plains. Lucky Ice Pop goes crazy in this deck. That card is just like another problem on its own. I'm not gonna get started, but I feel like all the Kangaskhan decks are going to be successful. And if you like both versions of the decks, you know, you got this version where you mix Ori and Greninja. You could do dual energy, or you could just, you know, set it up with water only, because you got Pichu that could generate energy to just give it to Oricorio, or Mega Kangaskhan that picks on you. But like, this is also a nice variant that this deck used to play like Zeraora instead of the Kangaskhan, but now that Kangaskhan is available, this deck just got better, and you know, it has the best of both worlds, right? The Ilima, it's all the game, same gameplay. It's all designed to get you in and out of the game as fast as possible. But my personal favorite is the Daycare version, and you know, all these decks have been seeing a lot of success, so I would recommend you guys run one of these Kangaskhan's. The next deck I want to talk about is this Mimikyu deck, the one that we've been playing. The reason I like this one is you want to see Giratina like in your starting first turn, right? Whether you're going second or first, you want that energy ramp, and you want to get that Giratina live as fast as possible. And you got the Mimikyu as a wall. You got the Plaza, so you could swap in and out Pokemon. Sableye, I still like the Sableye because you could definitely have an Ori answer. Yes, you have Greninja, but still having the Sableye out is pretty good. Just overall, doing 70 damage is amazing. The double Cyrus, double Copycat for the consistency. You know, this is one of the decks I'm going to be playing personally on the ladder. First of all, I have fun with it. It's not easy to pilot because like the Greninja pings definitely do matter, and just overall this deck is amazing, and I would recommend you guys to run this deck because like if you know how to pilot it well, you're not gonna be in a bad position. Now this Steelix deck actually ended up winning yesterday's tournament, actually today, either today or yesterday. But this deck is insane. Just having the Indeedis here to heal up your Steelix, and then you got, you know, Heavy Helmet, and it's taking 20 less damage. You're healing with Pokemon Center Lady, and you got the Lucky Ice Pops. Like, this deck is never gonna die. So that's why, you know, Charizard is gonna be a good counter for that. But fair warning, you will be taking a long time in every single game. I guarantee you that, because you're building up 4 energy, and you know, all you're doing is healing. So just be ready for those long grind games, because that's what you're definitely gonna be here for. Next up, the same concept as the last one, but additionally, you just have more healing. Of course, you're just gonna take forever to ramp up the healing, but the nice thing, you can play Psychic, right? Psychic energy is gonna allow your Indeedee to attack in dire situations. Snorlax is just a wall. It heals 20 every turn, deals 130, but you have to manually put all the energy on it. But then again, you got Rocky Helmet, you got Indeedee, so with the Indeedee in itself, it's healing 40 each turn, and if you have another Indeedee, it's healing 60, which is kind of crazy. You got the Lucky Pops, Potion. Honestly, my biggest gripe with this deck is like, what do you do against Oricorio, right? Like, facing against Oricorio, you're like literally not gonna do anything. But I do understand that Oricorio attacks really don't do anything, but like, I feel like people would be willing to end the game with a tie versus like having your opponent win the game. So yeah, it'll end the win streak, but they don't lose points. Next up, we have the Magnezone and Oricorio Old Faithful. Like, this deck right here is super strong. It's like, if you want something consistent, you like this playstyle, it's basically the anti-meta. I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of boring. If this is your playstyle, by all means, but it's not gonna take away from it being a good, consistent deck. You know, you just use the Magnezone to attack your opponent, make them flip a coin to attack, and 90 damage, and you don't lose an energy is kind of insane. You have Oricorio for defense. Clemont gets your Magnetons quicker. You know, this deck just synergizes really well, and I would recommend you guys run this deck if you want something consistent and that's not gonna really fail you. Next up, we have the rise of Darkrai. Darkrai is finally back, and it is coming, making a statement. What cards made this deck revive? Lucky Ice Pop, the starting planes, and the Plaza. The Plaza is going to allow you to fix those Indeedee starts and Giratina. The Plaza is going to just give 20 HP to all your basics, and Lucky Ice Pop is just going to give you that extra healing, which, you know, it's way better than Pokemon Center Lady at this moment. And, you know, you play the deck how you normally did in the past, but you add Copycat, you know, Mars, Red, Sabrina, you know, so Rocky Helmet's still in there with the Giant Scape, so, you know, the deck plays the same. It's a high skill ceiling deck, so I would warn you about that. But overall, if you guys do miss Darkrai or miss the chance to play it and you're a new player, you know, this is your time. It came back and it's stronger than ever. Now, let's go back to Greninja. You know, Greninja is still a respectable deck. It's still strong in the metagame. It's still one of the best decks, as you saw on, you know, the beginning of this video, right? So that being said, you know, Greninja Suicune just synergizes so well and is still a major threat. I think you're gonna see a lot of this on the ladder, so just be on the lookout. Fair warning, they're probably gonna be playing some lists like this, maybe not the starting planes. They'll shift it with, you know, another Irida, another Giant Scape. You know, it's not gonna all look the same, but this is one of the more successful versions of the deck that you could play. And if I would be a betting man, I would be playing this variant in order to get, you know, rank up real quick, because 160 Suicune HP is kind of crazy. Now let's get into the Altaria decks. There's many versions, and this one is going to be super strong. Yes, like, I would recommend this deck because it's just overall anything Altaria is kind of good. Chingling controls the game while you know, have the Greninja being built up with the Mega Altaria. You have Swablu that, you know, if you're losing in a losing situation, you could turn a game into a 50-50 coin flip if you get the sing off. Like, this deck is just insane, and I feel like overall it's going to be one of the big powerhouses to be playing, and this is a Greninja variant. Now, there is a Gourgeist version, which is kind of insane for 1 energy, that you can swing for 70 and it has 110 HP. Not only that, you have Training Arena that's going to allow you to attack for 80 damage as well. That synergizes well with Altaria, Gourgeist. You play the Jirachi, you play Chingling. Like, the deck is overall consistent and super strong since it's made its debut in the tournament scene, and this is going to be no different on the ladder. It's also one of those decks that are quick. Altaria, you know, 2 energy in order to pop off. You got all your consistency cards, so you're pretty much all set from here. Now, we do have the Tapu Lele version that plays the Lucky Ice Pops. This variant is also strong because you could definitely snipe a lot of Pokemon in the back row. There is a lot of building in the back row as well, which Tapu Lele can definitely take advantage of this. It's just a faster Greninja, but it has to be active to swing. But overall, super strong, and, you know, pair it with Jirachi and Double Cyrus, call it a day, right? The game plan is kind of simple, right? You're just attacking with Jirachi and, you know, weakening anything that's being built in the back row, any mega Pokemon, you know. So overall, I would recommend honestly this version or any of the other Altaria versions. Honestly, this deck is just amazing. Now, I'm going to talk about what I think is going to be the best. Is definitely going to be Hydreigon, Mega Absol, and Nihilego with the poison. So this deck just got a little bit better with the Ice Pop. Ice Pop is insane. Paired up with, you know, Hydreigon, you can literally make this heal you up for 60 damage, and it's kind of unfair. But besides that, you know, Hydreigon is just a better Rampardos, you know, 130 damage with a respectable amount of HP. You know, this is a very high roll deck, and overall, you saw it for the last 2 seasons. It's been a monster. So overall, I feel like this deck right here is going to be your best bet, and I would recommend you guys run that if you want to be successful. I mean, any of these decks could get you there. Of course, these are the decks that I have singled out and would recommend you guys play, because I don't believe in the other ones. But that being said, like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you next time. Let me know what you guys are going to be playing.